All right, let's kick it off. So I am Dan.
I am Fred.
Excellent. We are Engineering of Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about something controversial but close to my heart. We're going to talk about testing in production.
Sorry, what did you say?
If I had a mic in my hand, I would drop it right now. We're going to test in production tonight, Fred. We're going to go straight to prod.
One step there. Hold on. Dan, what did you say? Testing in production?
We are testing in production. This is the only way to fly, I hear.
All right.
10 years ago, it used to be a meme that you would test in production as a bad thing. Like people would go, oh, no, not testing in production. That's so uncivilized of you. But now it's like best practice.
Best practice.
What do you think, Fred?
Production.
Best practice? Best practice, or am I just dreaming?
Trying to Google something to figure out if I'm having a heart attack. What's the symptoms of having a heart attack? I think absolutely testing in production is the way to go.
Why do you think we've gone from testing in production is bad to testing in production is quite good?
Well, it's because we've got the right guardrails.
Yeah, okay. So before we just did it like cowboy style, and now we have a ways and means and a method.
One, I think the tools has improved, right? So we've got all these new goodies on the market, and I could say some of them launch dark pipelines. I think pipelines has improved. The smaller releases, all the improvements over the year is helping us to go in the right direction to enable us to test in production.
So the thought occurred to me as well today when I was thinking about this topic. Apart from not using Windows, which obviously would have solved a whole bunch of problems, do you think the famous outage that we had a week ago, where all the internet died, do you think they could have used testing in production type things to prevent that from happening? I'm talking about CrowdStrike, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's name names.
Yeah, look, I think that's very hard. I feel for anybody who's going through what they're going through at the moment. Because I think we've all been there in some form of shape, probably not at the same level, but we've all done something or to the best of our abilities, and then something goes wrong.
If we were testing in production, wouldn't the objection be that we're going to have way more instability, bugs, problems, customers are not going to get what they paid for, production's going to go down, all that kind of stuff? What do you think to that? What do you say to that?
Testing and production, but the ability to roll back. So your recovering strategy that goes with it becomes important. So it's again, this is not saying go crazy in test and production and just do whatever, ship your code and you don't even need test, or you need 1 or 2 tests, or happy pass, blah, blah, blah. No, it's still, you're only in a position to play at the highest level if you're using all the techniques and the recommendations and those practices to enable you to do that. If you pick one and think you're going to go to production and just deploy, skipping a staging environment, or you're going to get into trouble. 3 strikes and you're out.
What about if we talk about why would you test in production? Why is it a good thing that you would want to test in production?
The truest representation of what your users are going to be experiencing. Right? It's that old thing. It didn't happen on my machine. I don't understand. It's working on my machine. Hey, everybody come to mine and say, look, God, it's working. Production is failing, but here it's working. I don't know.
Yep. I think as well like most, I think it's in the Google SRE book, I think, but I think it's like a very high percentage of failures come from deployments. The idea in my mind is that you can make very small changes. Production shouldn't be a place where it's hard work to get to, right? Like you don't want to save up all these changes to go to production. You don't want to spend 3 days testing before you go to production. You don't want to kind of big bang releases or putting a whole bunch of things out at once. If production is treated like as a special snowflake kind of case where, you can't go in there and break things.
Snowflake.
If you treat it that way,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes you are dealing with systems that are in the snowflake category where you can very easily break something. Fine. In those kind of scenarios, you might have a journey to go on to get to what we're talking about. But I think the smaller your change, the less risk you're carrying of things breaking, right? So if you can put little things in place and often and test it and have part of your half feature, half built in actual production code deployed onto the production servers, that I think is like way less risk of things going wrong.
I mean, the blast radius is going to be smaller, absolutely. And you've got a smaller focus area as a developer or an engineer that you're going to be working on. But you still need to be in a position that you need to know where's the exit. Be aware of where's the exit.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, when you get on a plane, they normally tell you to be aware of where's the exit nearest to you. And there's a reason for that. Not to say that the plane's going to go down, there's going to be an emergency, but if there's an emergency, you need to know how to get off that plane as quickly as possible. And this, again, for me, there's small changes, absolutely. It contributes to confidence level, contributes to ensuring that it doesn't break. But you can do all of this. If you don't have the implementation and the strategy to revert back or to go back to a healthy state, you're in trouble.
Do you need to worry too much about that if you have a feature flag, let's say, right? So we're deploying code that is going to the server but is not generally not being executed at will by any customer at any time. So it's dark, right? Like the code is being put onto the server, but it's not being executed. So that kind of thing, I would imagine, should wildly decrease your need to kind of have a very solid rollback type thing. Would you say that?
It's still, I still see it as a rollback. Because you are...
like a flag being switched.
You're moving between two states.
Right.
And when I say rollback, it's not to say in the sense of, as part of your deployment strategy or your pipeline, you're rolling back or rolling forward, or, I'm referring to the ability to go back to a healthy state. Yeah. And feature flags is one of those mechanisms that is going to enable you to do that. But as great as the darkness that comes with it, there's a responsibility on you as an engineer when you start playing with feature flags.
Yeah. What's that? What's the responsibility side?
It's like clean up your room. Clean up. Keep it tidy. Have a process in place as part of your, if you're an agile environment, as part of that, where when you create it, at some point you need to remove it. You need to have some form of understanding who created, some auditing mechanism to know who is responsible for that. It's just being good custodians when you start using feature flags. Because otherwise it easily become this mess and you're trying to figure out, what does this feature flag do? But I love feature flags. It's a great mechanism. It's a great way to do testing. It just makes it so much easier. I'm always going to And the fact that you can reduce the blast radius by saying, all right, I've got a few users, if you're using some user accounts to test, that you're in a position that you can say, all right, only this one account is going to be get exposure to the new implementation. Yeah, I'm sold on that.
Mm. Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I think it's been interesting since I've been in my current role. So it's about 3.5 years or something. And I set up the initial pipelines for the applications for testing patterns and deployments, stuff like that. And we used feature flags from the beginning. One way that we did it was basically to force the use of feature flags, I guess, was by design of the way the pipeline worked. So when you committed a change, you could either commit directly to master or you could merge to master. If when you do that, it would deploy automatically to staging and production concurrently. So production was always getting the same code as staging every time. But the way that we differentiated between the two platforms was through feature flagging. So you would have some flags switched on in staging for experimental features or stuff being built, but production, it would be switched off. And I found that quite effective, actually, that, we doing that from the beginning was quite effective to say, okay, we can make small changes. We kind of maintain fairly fast pipelines as a bit of a discipline so that we can push changes into an environment. We do it often throughout the day. And when we're happy with it, we kind of flick the feature flag and away we go. It's live in production, but it's not linked to a deployment or anything like that. So, yeah, I think setting up the pattern, there's probably more to say about. You can say all you want. I think, like, oh, we're gonna use feature flags, and we're gonna deploy, and we're gonna use this, we're gonna use that. But I think the most effective way I've seen it happen has probably been to have it built into your process. So it's like it's an easy path, I suppose, to do those kinds of things. So if the pipeline goes and deploys concurrently to both, I did have conversations with some engineers who were nervous about that. And I was like, okay, if you're nervous about it, it's either a feature flag or it's additional tests, like automated tests. So your confidence is high enough to say, okay, I'm pushing this to master and it's going to go live, as well, at least be deployed on the server. But that was something I never compromised on. Whenever anyone wanted a button to go to production, like promote it, it's like, no, not happening. Straight to production.
I
What do you
love
think,
a
Fred?
button.
Scary?
No, I like a button, to click a button.
No, you don't want a button.
Yeah, like
the button gives you your state then is not the same, right? It gives you a way to say, production special.
what's
Special
wrong with the
snowflake.
button? What's wrong with making the decision go or no go?
What are you basing the decision on?
I just, how I feel on the day. Could have a head ball, shake it, dice, rock, paper, scissors.
Yep. Okay.
Or maybe I'm just
Why do you
putting
need a
it
button then if that's your if that's your go or no go? I would say you don't need a button. I think it's dangerous though, because if you have a button, I think it's the principle. I think, like, if you boil this down to a principle, by having a pipeline that just goes straight to production, I think some engineers are uncomfortable with that. I think they're uncomfortable because they're thinking production should be a special snowflake, protected, right? So I think pushing it automatically with no questions and no gates means that it can't be, just by its very definition, the way the process works and the pipeline works, it can't be a special place. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think there's an aspect of the reason we want to be in a position that it doesn't go to production straight away is to reduce that. I actually need to focus 100%, and I need to make sure this stuff is working. This was almost like I've got another step in the process where I can go and I'll just go and check. And then, I forgot that. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll just fix it and try again. But if you're saying, there's no second gate, we're going live, then it becomes more a high investment in ensuring that we actually take it very seriously about the practices that we use. Making sure that we invest in testing, because then testing is, just going back to testing again, it's just that important factor that, okay, hold on, this is my best friend. If I invest in that, I'm going to increase the chance of not having an issue in production. So using feature flags, that helps at that last bit and saying, okay, I'm still in a good position. Now, I don't think we need a button. I don't know why you want a button there. It doesn't make sense.
No, we don't need a button. My engineers were a little bit cheeky though. They did add a flag that would only deploy an artifact or a build to staging. And I always used to pick on them about it. So I'm like, why is this here? Why is this flag in the pipeline? This shouldn't be here. Straight to production is the rule. So they kind of worked around my rule a little bit in creative ways. But generally speaking, But actually, we can cover this a bit later in our discussion possibly, but I've actually been deleting our staging environment altogether. So now we have no excuse. Everything goes straight to production. So that's even more living on the edge, I think, of
so are
just
you,
saying,
are
well,
you,
now
are
we
you
don't
having
have...
lunch by yourself now?
Why is that?
Are you sitting by yourself at the lunch table, like, hey guys, let's go for lunch? No, sorry, we all brought in lunch. Are you sure? No, let's go for lunch.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
I think maybe that's it. Maybe as I'm deleting staging now, maybe my engineers will go, maybe we'll create a staging like on our local machines or something. Like,
and that would be fine.
Find a way around it.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Local.
Local's cool.
That shifting left. That is.
Yep.
Yeah, why not? It's quick.
Yep.
Hopefully it's quick.
Yeah. Oh, hey, if an engineer spun up some tooling to spin up the whole environment in a local thing, great. It's awesome. You could do all sorts of creative things. Okay, there are some downsides of being only having production environment. One of them probably is that things like load testing, for example, load testing is a bit more difficult because you are impacting. If you only have one environment, well, that's the only place you can throw additional load at something and see if it's going to die. But when it dies, that means production is down. So that's one area so far that I've been thinking through and thinking that carries additional risk and maybe additional things you don't want.
But then you want to be in a position to spin up an environment quickly, so it's ephemeral environments where spinning up once a night or once a week, run your performance test, and then kill it. That's the other thing with these environments where they get identities. Suddenly there's this thing that we've got a relationship with the staging environment or a test environment where you say, let's go. No, you can't kill it. No. Can we recreate it? Oh, probably not. The guy who created the staging environment, he's living in Hawaii, surfing. I don't think he's going to come back.
It's a decent amount of work to maintain. You're maintaining, like, the ideal for a staging / test environment is to be like production, right? So that's a fair bit of setup you're duplicating to have that kind of environment running. And it's a decent, so just from me, one guy, deleting an environment, so deleting staging, it took me 7 days just to delete our stuff out of S3 because we got so much stuff in there. So just that alone is 7 days alone just to delete everything out of S3. So it's not a trivial thing to set up a whole duplicated environment. Cost-wise as well, it's not just time.
I mean, if we're talking distributed microservices, independent releases, then you need this colossal world that we call staging or testing. Or isn't it just the ability to either using mocks or some form of a stub to test, if you dependency on another API, or why can't you just use the actual production version of that API? Is that an option, an opportunity?
Well, that's where you definitely get into places where, I guess, sometimes you can write tests with stubs, mocks, and that kind of thing, and kind of not test much. Because depending on how things are working and how you write your test, but sometimes it can be possible to write something and think you're actually testing something, but not. I guess that's, there's probably as many people that would say, hey, run tests with a database, like some lovable frameworks that we love. Use the database when they're actually under test. Some, but there's downsides to that too. You have speed. You have kind of setting up tests is a little bit more tricky. So it's not like a win with everything's for free. But you would love the framework, Fred, where you get to use the database for testing. You don't have to mock anything.
Don't have to mock anything.
No.
This sounds like a button issue. Yes.
Sounds like something you would love. Get to code in Ruby, to test with a database.
Okay.
How good is that?
I mean, how many years ago is this, Dan? I mean, was this like
It's coming back, Fred.
Dinosaurs, the dinosaurs going around going, hey, got a framework. Come on, let's get together and
ask any 5-year-old kid whether they'd prefer to have dinosaurs come back. Okay, that's all I got to say. Dinosaurs are coming back in a big way.
All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we're getting to the point where it's becoming weird again.
Yeah.
I tell myself every time we're gonna have a conversation. It's going to be civilized. It's going to be to the point, contributing to improving engineers' lives, making it awesome. And then you chuck the R word in there, and then you start making accusations about dinosaurs are going to come back. I ask any 5-year-old. I can ask a 5-year-old anything, and they'll go like, "Oh, that's nice. I like that. Do you like ice cream? Yes, I like ice cream. You want to go to bed? No, I want to stay up."
Exactly. I agree, Fred. Ruby on Rails and ice cream. How can you say no to either of those? I agree totally.
Yeah. I could say no to one of those things.
It's too easy to bait you, Fred. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're pushing the buttons. The button has been pushed. But I agree.
You push my button.
I think we're on the right track here, right? So we agree that you can go to production. You need to use feature flags. You don't need staging environments. If you're going to do some performance testing, load testing, a bit more challenging, you probably have to spin up some form of ephemeral environment to put you in a position to test that. I think we're on the right track. Now,
what do you think about canaries?
But they were used quite efficiently in mining. I think they had a purpose.
They're quite cute, aren't they?
Yeah, they
small and cute.
Yeah. They definitely. You know why it's called canary releases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us why, Fred.
No, I just wanted to say I know why, but I'm on. I don't want to get hate mail and saying how can you say that?
Yes.
Yes.
We don't want to upset.
You know why they went down the mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
The heroes of the mining community.
The first time I saw a talk on canary releases, AWS event, I thought it was just incredible. I thought the concept is just, when you were talking about dinosaurs 5-year-old, there's a few engineering practices or things that's been developed over the years. With the first time you hear about it, you get that excitement that burns from the inside, and it's not heartburn because you had a taco that's now having a conversation with you. Yeah. And Canary releases is one of those. That and launch darkly. The first time I saw launch darkly, I thought, oh my life, this is incredible. When can I use it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, actually. The first time I saw canaries, I was like, wow, this is cool. Actually, and it's on a video that I can't find anymore. It's been lost to the internet, YouTube's somewhere. There was like a presentation someone gave at a conference in like 2015 or something, and they were running microservices. Might have been before 2015, actually. They were running microservices, and they'd built their own kind of tooling, I guess, to deploy multiple versions in production, have a certain percentage of traffic go to a certain version. They would like basically put it, though it was an e-commerce platform, so, and quite a lot of traffic. I think they had every page of their site as a separate microservice, and then they would deploy a new version and monitor it quite heavily in production to know whether, say, the metrics, if the dollars went up, they're like, oh, that's a good change. And they had all this tooling to basically, give them, hey, here's this service, what is it running? And it would give you like 5 versions and say, well, 50% of the traffic's running here and here and here. I saw that video for the first time. I was like, my mind was blown. It's like, this is incredible. But I can't find the original video, unfortunately, which is a shame. But ever since then, though, I don't think it's spread that widely.
No.
I don't know. What do you think? It's pretty rare that you actually see it.
There's a few areas or few in organizations where I've heard or it's being used. But overall, no.
No.
And I don't know if it's that old thing where priority, or there's an investment, a deployment, or infrastructure is done in such a way to move to using canary releases is a daunting task.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how it hasn't spread that widely. Maybe it's really relevant for when you have a very large scale, to be able to throw a version and see very small differences between versions and go, yes, that's the winner. Let's all unite on that version. Maybe like 99% of places don't have enough scale to actually justify it. I don't know. Well, we know CrowdStrike doesn't use it, but anyway, that's a topic for another video.
Yeah, I'm not going there. No. Rule number 1. I don't think dinosaurs are coming back. Number 2, I wish all videos of Ruby would disappear off the internet. And number 3, I'm not going there.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the only rule is if you're using Windows, you better have canary releases, otherwise you're in trouble.
What? I don't think it's Windows. I don't think it's...
No?
Yeah, I just think it's unfortunate. But let's go the other side of this. All right. If we don't experience these impactful incidents in the world, right? How do we make change, and how do we ensure that organizations take it seriously?
I really hope that that's some of the outcome of what we get.
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion. Maybe the cynical part of me kind of thinks nothing's going to change. In 2 weeks, everyone's going to forget this ever happened. The memory of the of the world seems quite short. So I'm not sure, but I really hope that you're right, Fred. I hope that we do things differently, but we'll see. We'll see.
What would have been
We'll see.
worst if we see a blue screen and the world's now there's loads of challenges, or the same amount of organizations got completely hacked and destroyed to the point where they can't recover?
I guess there's always something worse
Yeah, yeah,
that could happen.
yeah. It's like opening up a Ruby code base and thinking you're gonna have fun. Yeah, that's the way.
It does. It does remind me of the. It does remind me of the time. Oh, I'm going to make a separate video about this, so maybe we won't go into detail yet. But it reminds me of the time of my biggest production mistake that I made and brought a system down. That involved actual data loss. So I think when those kind of things happen, at least like it didn't go to that level, right? Like it was painful. Recovery was painful, but you're right. It definitely could have been worse, either via hack, security breaches, or data loss. That kind of thing could be much worse.
Yeah,
Slightly inconvenient. If you were carrying cash in your wallet, not that inconvenient. If you're at the supermarket, guess it's bad for some areas where you call 911 emergency services and their systems are
yeah.
down, or
No, look,
hospitals and that kind of thing. That's quite serious.
look, I definitely think it should have been done better, right? So the ability to recover from it should have been better. Totally agree. But I also think, like, I just think the way the world jumped onto any media platform and started to having an opinion as if it's never happened to you. I think that is just, it's not supportive, you know. It's, I think it's
Yeah, I think it's
just, it's
better to think
unfair.
about. Yeah, I think it's my take on it was like, well, this should be an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
To either do things better or differently or what have you. I think there's positives that can be brought out of it. They're learning experiences, I think, where you can prevent it from happening again. So
Yeah.
I think that's a better approach. So what do you reckon about pull requests, Fred? In this world of testing in production and safety nets and safety blankets, should we have pull requests?
Why do we
Reviews,
have
code
pull
reviews?
requests?
Should we have them? Why do we have them?
Yeah. I mean, why did so get up? Why did somebody decide, hey, I need a pull request?
It's actually a very popular feature, isn't it? So like
Yeah.
adding it to, it was never in Git, I don't believe, but it was a thing on GitHub and kind of taken off as like, yeah, we should all do this. It's a good question. I guess like it's so popular, like I would say it's in the 90% somewhere that of teams are using pull requests. Some are doing it slightly different to others, of course. There's slight variations across the board, but it's very popular. I actually, when this goes into a slightly different topic, which we can also maybe roll into this, but somebody who I worked with was very passionate about trunk-based development, and their definition was quite strict and was like, if you're not committing directly to master, that's not trunk-based development. And if you're doing any sort of pull request, merge, branch, you're doing it wrong. So that was their position. At first, when we were first talking about it, I thought like my comfortable workflow, I didn't really care that much about pull requests, but I was more comfortable if I was making a change to use a local branch and then happy to merge it myself. That's fine before it goes up. But my kind of safety blanket at the time was like, oh, I'd like to have a local branch to mess with. So at least I know that, I can go back to master if I need to. I can, I'm not kind of I'm not risking all the things, but his view was like, nah, has to be all in master or nothing. And at the time, I was like, oh, I would still create a local branch and then just merge it, and no one would ever know. It'd just be fine. It'd go in as one commit into master. No one would ever know. I can still use my local branch. But since those days, I actually my opinion's changed. I think since those days, now I actually prefer mostly to commit directly to master. I will make a change and I'll just commit it directly to master. But interestingly, so in the day job, I guess I can have some theories. Maybe I should ask my engineers their opinions on this, what their views are. But I commit directly to master probably 50% of the time, right? But the team, individual engineers, will generally always use a pull request. Now, we don't force that though, so it's not a forced thing. They could commit directly to master if they wanted to, and they can merge their own pull requests if they want to. It's up to them basically who they ask for review, and whether it's an approval or not is up to them. So it's more based on, do I think this is risky? Do I know enough about this system? It's kind of like a contextual decision that they're making themselves, but there's no rule, there's no process around it. But yeah, I'm happy to just commit to master all day long, no problem. What do you think, Fred?
Yeah, I can see you just want to commit to master all day long.
It feels good. It feels good.
I think there's a few things about. There's probably the separation between pull request and trunk-based development and committing to main. It all depends, I guess, on the environment you're working in as well, because there's some requirements around who's made the change. This has been reviewed, contributing to verifying that this code, like ISO requirements and stuff, that plays a factor. It all comes back to the same core idea, concept, and it's safety, a safe way to make a change. So if you want to use a pull request because you're in a position where you want to get a second opinion, you want to get somebody to look at it, or you're a novice in that space, or you're a junior associate engineer developer coming in, I think it's a good mechanism. But I mean, you can do the same with committing to main and just doing a co-authoring, peer review, pairing, pair programming. But the intent is to ensure whatever we deploy to production is, one, safe and is good quality code, and it's implementing that business requirement, adding value for our customers. Yeah. If we go down the route of there's only one way, it's not trunk-based development if you don't do this, or it's not a pull request if you do this, I think we're missing the point.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I kind of like that in our team, that people can make the decision for themselves. I kind of like that vibe. It feels good. It's like people can decide. So admittedly, sometimes I do a pull request, and sometimes I do tag people for review. And sometimes it's more rare that I wait for an approval, but sometimes I will. And you're right, it's all based upon the risk, I guess, of change. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Now, pull request that is of a large number of file changes.
Yes.
Now, that is worse than having a discussion about is trunk-based development committing to main or not. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like those.
Yeah. Because then, in all honesty, then you can just as well not have a pull request.
Yeah. I think that's why, I guess, trunk-based development, well, not necessarily trunk-based development, actually, because you can still have a big change. But I think this whole picture that we're talking about, where you make small changes, you have flags, you have production that's not a special place, you have ways and means to decrease risk around change. And part of that is those small changes, which then goes back into your pull requests or your actual changes that you're making to the system. I guess like that whole picture is all for the same cause, I guess, right? Like it's all aligning to the same intent. And I think it's very hard probably to have one without the other.
Yeah.
Right. And actually in the team, part of the way that I was able to help them practice some of these things was to keep changes small. And that was not even a technical process. That was like when we look at the work that we're doing, we break it down in a certain way so that each change we make is quite small in size. And generally, it's very small. If we're doing a merge or a PR, it's very small. If we're reviewing, it's small. The change going to production is small, which decreases risk around that. So, but that is a team discipline and approach. It's got nothing to do with technical. That's kind of how you work or how you break down the work that you're doing as a team. But I think all of that is quite useful, and also it helps stakeholder expectations as well. I think because part of it is if you make some of these changes, you have to be able to say to, say, your product or business person, like, oh, if you're reviewing things, we have to make sure you're in the feature flag so you can see what's being built because we're putting it straight to prod. You want to be able to play with it, say, yes, they can test it, they can kick the tires, they can be happy with it. They can say, yes, okay, switch the flag on. I guess like part of this process also involves how the team is working with those small changes, how other people close to the team or in the team but aren't technical are also working with the team and working with software engineers. Because I think that whole picture is all influenced each other, right?
The circle of life.
Circle of life.
Yeah.
That's it. I think like product, business owners or business people, designers, all these kind of people that are in the team but are not coding day to day. They're part of this whole picture too, I think, because the expectations and ways of working has to be set across the board.
Yeah. By using these techniques, you're enabling everybody. Yeah. It's just you're contributing to this cross-functional, collaborative environment that is not a special snowflake.
Well, I think this has been an enlightening conversation, Fred. I think we should test in production, use feature flags. No one does Canary, so why bother? Don't do PRs, just commit straight to master, ship straight to production. I think that's where we landed.
Okay, I think we went through the darkness. We lost one or two canaries along the way.
Unless you're using Windows, and then, well.
Or you're coding in Ruby.
Very good, Fred. Great topic. We'll see you in the next one.